Hello, dear viewer, and welcome to another episode of the Catholic League Forum. I'm Mike McDonald, Director of Communications at the Catholic League, and joining me today is Bill Donohue, President and CEO of the Catholic League. Bill, we've got another full week this week, but I think probably the biggest issue we touched on this week was a great piece that you sent to the senators on the subject of marijuana. Now, before I came to the Catholic League, I actually worked in drug control policy in the government, so I know a bit about this issue, but why all of a sudden was this such an important statement for you to make?
Well, the American people, according to the survey, seem to in favor of recreational marijuana. I don't think the American people really know the details. If they knew what the psychological and the physiological effects of marijuana use, I think they'd change their mind. The marijuana use today, the brands that are being used today, they're 17 times stronger than that was used in my generation back in the 1960s. So I think a lot of the boomers think, well, it was basically harmless for us. It'll be harmless today. It's not the case at all. The reason I wrote this piece and we sent it out to the senators is because Chuck Schumer seems to be enthralled with the idea that this has to be a priority. And they try to make it a race thing. That we're going to help black people. I don't know how you help black people by saying to all those black ministers and educators who have been telling the young kids, don't use drugs.
Right.
Now it's okay to use them. Nobody is hurt more from drugs than blacks, particularly black men. And the recent statistics have demonstrated this. Besides, there's no outcry. There's no demand. People are not in the street saying, hey, let's get marijuana legal. They've gone down the road on this, Mike. You've seen it when you were in the White House. I've seen it as a sociologist. The damage that is done to people's brain, for example, their attention span, their ability to memorize. These kids can't function in school. And obviously, the more you engage, the more debilitating it is. There's also a lot of physiological evidence of what it does to the heart and the lungs and the like. Now, what I get a kick out of is that we just got off a respiratory disease called COVID. And everybody says you shouldn't be smoking cigarettes and be worried about this and that, wear your mask. Then why are we going to kill our lungs now by introducing another toxic substance into our bodies? We've had enough problem with alcohol. We went through that with Prohibition. The American people kind of settled themselves out on that. Do we really need more? And let's remember what they're doing in the West Coast, people. Not just marijuana.
No.
All right? They're into fentanyl in Colorado, meth, cocaine, heroin. Small doses now, bigger doses down the road. And take a look at Colorado and take a look at Seattle.
Yes.
The traffic deaths, the people in the ER. I mean, it's devastating what's happening. I have all the research there. My doctorate in sociology, I don't pretend to be a physician, so I looked at what the physicians have said on this, and I've taken from very liberal sources, quite frankly, that published in the Washington Post, New York Times, and places like that. I'm not taking from, quote, conservative sources. I think it's a big mistake, and they're going to regret it.
Yes, no, absolutely. And dear viewer, this is actually a very good piece. We have a shorter piece up on the website right now, but at the bottom you'll find a link to Bill's longer piece that goes into much more detail on this. I think, Bill, you highlighted at the end there a very good point that needs to be reinforced. That, everyone talks about the joke that, it's a gateway drug, Well, at least in terms of legalization, it absolutely is. They'll start with the weed, and then it gets into the fentanyl
and you don't get rid of the black market.
No.
Because there's somebody down the block will give you something stronger than what Uncle Sam will give you. And guess what? They're in business without paying taxes.
Absolutely.
So you know what happened in San Francisco, right?
In San Francisco, they recently just had to suspend the sales tax and all the other taxes that the pot stores had to pay because they couldn't keep up with Johnny down the block who's just selling it right out of his car. It's a ridiculous system that you don't get the tax dollars from. We could talk about this forever, Bill. So
let me mention one thing to the viewers, though. I was getting dressed this morning. I have the radio on, WCBS radio. It's in 880 in New York. And they said that they're celebrating it being legal in New Jersey. It's medically harmless was the term. So I wrote to them, and I have to give them credit. They wrote back and they're correcting it.
Yeah.
It's not medically harmless to smoke marijuana. That's a myth, and it's a deadly one.
Yes, absolutely. It really messes you up. Absolutely. Now, Bill, shifting gears a little bit, cancel culture. Right. We've discussed that a lot on the show. We've had segments on people getting canceled on Twitter. It's in vogue in the mainstream media. It's just in vogue in the country right now. But you had a very strong piece out this week, taking a look at why cancel culture is so prevalent amongst the left because they can't win debates.
I saw this a long time ago when I was a professor in Pittsburgh. I was associated with ISI, Intercollegiate Studies Institute. It's a very good organization out of Pennsylvania, I think the Philadelphia area. And they've been involved in this issue many, many years. Bill Buckley was a proponent of them at times. They would pay for me to go around the country and debate people on the subject of the ACLU, because I've written a couple of books about them. First of all, I didn't get many debates. They didn't want to debate me. When they did debate me, it was very interesting. They didn't do too well. But let me say, I'm not just tooting my own horn. Liberals don't do well in debates against conservatives. No. All right? They don't do their homework. We had to learn from them because the left controls the education. So we know the way they think. But look, I was on Hannity and Collins for years. And then before that, Crossfire, the original Crossfire. Yeah. Why don't we have a debate show like Hannity Collins on Fox? Why don't we have Crossfire? Because the left kept losing the debates. We speak from common sense also. Right. We have common sense on our side. And the left doesn't look too good. They're driven by emotion, not by reason, which is one of the reasons why we have the cancel culture. The only way they can win is to try and stop us.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in another situation that's probably lacking in a lot of reason, twice this week you had two statements on transgenderism coming from, of all places, the White House. You got one on White House is gripped by transgender mania. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with this current regime?
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, President Biden, again, I'm not so sure he knows Tuesday from Thursday, but he is responsible, no matter how you put it, for what's being said in his name. Clearly, there's something going on here. I've never seen such a full court press. Where is the demand that we have this great, terrible problem of kids who are getting socially rejected because they're transgender? No. Kids who are going through this problem are having a mental disorder, all right? And they need to be treated. This is not my position. Dr. Paul McHugh, who was involved in this going back to the 60s, Johns Hopkins University psychiatrist, he's still a distinguished professor at Johns Hopkins Hospital. He said, this is deleterious. This is a disaster. And take a look at what they're doing in other countries. We need to learn from the Europeans once in a while on this kind of thing. In Sweden, they did it for 22 years. Right. They gave all these hormone treatments and puberty blockers to the kids. It's illegal now. They did a study, University of, it was Amsterdam University, the hospital university, did a study from 1972 to 2018. A big study, 4,600 transgender men and women. Their lifespan was cut by 50%. Sweden and now Denmark, France, they're all going the same direction. In other words, the Europeans were ahead of us on this. Right. They've seen the results and they're pulling back. The damage that's done psychologically and physiologically to kids with the puberty blockers, the hormones, the chemical castration, the genital mutilation. Yeah. We're going to look back in this country at some day and we're going to say, what the hell was going on? That the White House, that the devout Catholic president was pushing this stuff onto kids, little kids? There's a mania in this country, and it begins in the White House.
Yes, absolutely. Again, just to get to that, re-emphasize that point, as we always like to do, these kids do have other mental health problems that are not being treated, right. And that in and of itself should be unacceptable. But fortunately, there are good states that are pushing back, that are trying to do the right thing. But this week, Jen Psaki, White House press secretary, she was on a podcast.
Doesn't she work for MSNBC?
Soon to be.
Soon to be. I see. She negotiated that when she was in the White House. Yeah. Unlike Kayleigh McEnany and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who did it after they left.
Yeah. There's a right way and a wrong way, but that's a story for a different day. Right. Now, she was talking about states like Florida, like Texas, like a bunch of these other ones that are pushing back on the administration, pushing back on the fake science, because there is no evidence to say that any of this is good, natural, or healthy. But she broke down into tears.
Right. Crocodile tears, yes. It's amazing. You know, it's such a stunt, isn't it? This is her first podcast prior to going on MSNBC. And she says that people who like us, who believe in parental rights, and we don't believe in child abuse in the classroom, she says we are harsh and cruel. And that means you. That means you, viewer, unless you're way out there in no man's land. She acts like as if these transgender kids are being bullied. She offers no evidence. And by the way, if they are being bullied, they should stop.
Yes.
You don't punish a kid because the parents are so irresponsible as to allow them to try and think that they can change sexes, which of course they can't anyway. But that's a myth, all right? That's a red herring. That's a ruse. There's no bullying going on. DeSantis's bill in Florida, which says you can't be dealing with talking about sexual matters to kids 5 through 8, pre-K through 3rd grade. That doesn't bully anybody. And she's a liar, Jen Psaki,
Yeah.
to plant this seed into people's heads that people like us want to punish these kids. No, we want to rescue them from people like her and her boss, the devout Catholic president, we know his name, Mr. Biden, in the White House.
Absolutely, Bill. Well, this seems like a good point to wrap it up. Dear viewer, please check out our website, catholicleague.org. You'll find a link below in the description, and you'll find all the stories we talked about there and all the other things going on at the Catholic League. And as always, if you could give this video a like and subscribe, that would greatly help us out a lot. Thanks so much. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.